What if that faint, greenish blur we call 3I Atlas wasn't a comet at all, but a deliberate probe, an alien craft cruising silently through our solar system on a mission no one expected? Imagine the headlines, the late-night scientists, the amateur stargazers peering through backyard telescopes wondering whether they just watched a message pass by. The real story is stranger and more interesting. 3I Atlas is an interstellar object, the third we've ever seen, discovered by the Atlas survey this past July, and it behaved like a comet as it plunged toward the sun. But for a moment, let's suspend that explanation and play with the thought that it was engineered. A tiny dark ship carrying information, sensors, maybe even a memory of another star. Close your eyes and picture a small, ancient machine battered by eons in interstellar space. Its exterior pocked by dust and radiation. Its interior humming with a purpose only its makers understood. If an alien probe were passing through, the first sign would be odd motion, a trajectory or a speed that doesn't quite match natural expectations, and that's exactly where the story gets interesting. 3I Atlas arrived from far beyond our system at high velocity, the kind of speed that screams interstellar origin, and that same fact could alternately signal either a natural comet flung out from another star or a deliberate launch from an alien civilization. Probes have to obey physics, and so would any craft, but unlike a rock, a probe could show tiny, explainable deviations, small course corrections, bursts of energy, or non-gravitational accelerations that hint at propulsion or outgassing under control. When astronomers first tracked 3I Atlas, they watched its coma and tail grow like any comets, and telescopes from Earth and spacecraft near Mars took images that showed the familiar fuzzy white blob with a faint tail. But imagine instead that those wisps were not purely dust and ice, but venting ports, subtle exhaust from systems throttling to maintain attitude, thin plumes that look comet-like to instruments tuned to starlight and ice. If a probe were engineered for survival, it would likely carry instruments and materials unknown to us, and the light it reflects might contain spectral oddities, traces of metals, alloys, or coatings different from cometary ice and silicates. Scientists did measure unusual things in the light of 3I Atlas molecules like carbon monoxide and water, but also surprises in composition that astronomers debated, and every surprise is the seed of a new hypothesis. For a civilization to send a probe, reasons could range from scientific curiosity to deliberate contact, a relic seeking to record its creator's existence, or even a long-range arc carrying microbes or data across the galaxy. The idea of an interstellar messenger is old. We've imagined probes like Bracewell probes broadcasting messages, self-replicating von Neumann machines, and silent relics drifting toward new systems. And 3I Atlas would fit the timeline for an ancient relic. Now let's move through the practical steps of what would happen if scientists seriously entertained the probe hypothesis. First would come careful reanalysis of motion, spectrum, and structure, looking for anything that breaks natural models. Observational networks worldwide would be retasked. Radio telescopes would listen for narrowband emissions. Infrared sensors would check for heat signatures. Spacecraft cameras would look for geometric structure in the coma. If someone detected an artificial radio signal or an unmistakable narrow spike in frequency, the planet would feel it, not only in headlines, but in a global shift in attention and policy. But reality is messy. False positives happen. Natural processes mimic engineering, and comets contain complex chemistry that can fool even experienced observers into thinking there's intent where there is only physics. The short-term consequences of declaring a probe would be seismic. Coordinated observations from agencies and amateur astronomers, emergency meetings at universities, and an immediate scramble to model origin, intent, and risk. Governments would ask questions about contamination risk. Does the object carry microbial life? Could it seed our world? Planetary protection rules might be invoked even for a passing object as a precaution. Economically and socially, conspiracy industries would explode. Think tanks, documentaries, grifters, and genuine researchers competing to explain whether this was a message, a relic, or something far more mundane. The scientific benefit, however, would be enormous. Even if it were a probe, sampling its coma remotely could teach us about materials and engineering beyond our experience. And if it were a relic, it could offer an unprecedented window into alien technology. Over months to years, careful study might reveal patterns, repeatable, tiny thrusts, materials with non-natural isotopic ratios, or a structure revealed by protective jets that briefly expose something regular and geometric. If any of that appeared, institutions like NASA, ESA, and global observatories would coordinate to collect every photon and particle, building an archive that could alter physics textbooks and engineering practice. In the most dramatic alternate timeline, humanity might detect encoded information, a sequence in light, radio, or particle emissions, and the process of decoding would require interdisciplinary teams, cryptographers, linguists, and artists. Imagine the emotional consequence of deciphering even a fragment, a greeting, a map, a mathematical primer, or a recording of a sky from another time. Each would be a cultural thunderclap, reshaping our place in the cosmos. But there are sober, responsible reasons to resist leaping from mysterious signal to alien probe. Science prefers the conservative path. Rule out all natural explanations, publish, let the community replicate, then escalate claims. And that's what happened with 3ITLAS in the real world. After intense observation and public curiosity, scientists concluded it behaved like a comet, with activity and composition consistent with natural origins. Even so, the probe idea persists in popular imagination because it answers an emotional itch. We want to believe we are not alone, that the cosmos carries witnesses, friends, or relics of other minds. There's another twist. Even if 3I Atlas is natural, the fact that we watched, imaged, and learned from an object formed around another star is itself miraculous. It gives us raw data about planetary formation across the galaxy. And whether comet or probe, the encounter teaches something vital. Our observational network is now sensitive enough to pick up travelers from other systems, and that capability changes future strategy for both science and planetary defense. The true takeaway is not hand-wringing over headlines, but humility. Either outcome, engineered artifact, or ancient icy wanderer, expands our knowledge and forces us to prepare more carefully for visitors from the deep. If 3I Atlas were an alien probe, the best reaction would be methodical curiosity. Gather data, collaborate globally, and keep decisions transparent to avoid fear and misinformation. If it's a comet, the proper response is awe. We just glimpsed matter forged around a distant star, carried across interstellar space for billions of years to whisper to our instruments for a brief moment. So whether you prefer the cinematic image of a tiny alien messenger or the quieter wonder of an ancient comet, the real story is the same. The universe is larger, stranger, and more generous with surprises than we often remember. And if you like this dive into What If, hit like and subscribe so we can explore the next impossible visitor together.